What's up, people? Welcome back to Noise Avocation Podcast. I am your host, Ryan.
And I am Jeremy.
Today we have our first interview with Tristan of Barrow Hoard Records. We've talked about him and his projects a few times in different episodes, and he's helped us with a couple things on the show, and went to him for approval on our artwork, and he's checked out pretty much every episode and been our little inside critic.
Yeah, I'm very excited to interview him, and excited about the episode because it is our first interview, so I hope everybody enjoys.
He does run a record label by the name of Barrow Hoard Records. He's created, mixed, mastered, guest starred on multiple projects. Some of his projects include Bone Weaver, Dungeon Synth Project, Elyvilon, Barrowking. He's done stuff with Anonymous, and we'll get into everything else as we bring him on the call here. But before we get into that, for social media purposes, you can find me at Soundwave Slave on Instagram. You can find the podcast at Noise Avocation Podcast on Facebook and at Noise Avocation on Instagram. You can email us at noiseavocation@gmail.com with questions, comments, concerns, whatever. But before we get into the actual interview, we're going to play the latest single from Tristan from his next upcoming project by the name of Barrowking. The song is called Granite Throne. Okay, that was Granite Throne by Barrowking, and here on call we have Tristan here with us. How's it going, man?
Hey, going well here. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Really
Hey,
appreciate it, guys.
thanks for taking the time to join us. I know you're world famous and busy on Saturdays.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Saturday's definitely packed with all kinds of important networking with clients from across the world for sure.
so I don't know how I missed the Barrow King single. Like when you were just telling me about it yesterday when I was talking to you, I was like, kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we released it over the summer, maybe in like May, I want to say something like that. But it came out and we didn't do. We released the single. We were hoping to get it like associated with a role playing game that came out, but didn't end up kind of fitting that vibe. So it just kind of came out. I may have sent it to you. I think I did because you were talking about doing some of those live shows out in the alley in Alpena there.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were talking about maybe having Barrowking come play, but
Oh,
we
that's
weren't
right.
ready
That's
for
right.
playing live at that point. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that one, since it's just a single and it came out and then we didn't have anything like directly following up, it's easy for it kind of to fall off.
Yeah, sometimes between like all of my things that are coming out and stuff that comes out for the store, and I talk to numerous people that are always sending me projects and stuff. So sometimes like you might have sent it to me and the name Barrow King blended with your label name. So I might have just kind of overlooked it and completely forgot. But I do remember now that you said talking about the alleyway shows that we were talking about it. So is that project just you, or is there more people in that group?
Yeah, so that one is intended to be a full band. That actually came around from my Dungeon Synth connections. I met a Dungeon Synth artist from Canada who's got a kind of wide background in a lot of different stuff, but he lives out in Ottawa, I think. And he goes under the alias Blade of Kino for Dungeon Synth, but we started talking and figured out pretty quickly that we like a lot of the same metal. And we were both kind of working on like sort of doomy post-metal sludge sort of stuff, and figured we'd team up and pull something together.
So it's
And
just
now we're
you
working
two
on
then.
just getting a full band together as well to play live. So we've got a guitar player. Myself, I would probably do vocals and or bass. And then we have a drummer and potentially a bass player in the Detroit area. And then we've got the guitar player from Canada who would just come down for shows.
Cool. Do you do vocals on the current single, correct? Or is it both of you?
Yeah, that's all me.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I could. Your voice. Sorry, Jeremy. I
You're
didn't mean to
good.
cut you off. Your voice. I mean, like it kind of the cleans kind of sound similar to your Bone Weaver stuff a little bit. So I figured that was you. I just wasn't sure if the screaming end was you or not.
Yeah, that was me. I was. I'll go for it.
Fucking no, dude. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
And answer. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I tried to go for a different style for the harsh vocals there, just trying to be a bit more like scream singing, sludgy kind of sound, channel that like Matt Pike or Troy Sanders
I
with
like
it. So hopefully that came through.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no,
man.
I like it a lot. It kind of. Did you listen to Pike versus the Ottoman?
Yeah, I did. The that one record they put out. It's definitely, yeah, I like that style a lot, and I wish they had more content in that vein actually.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's obviously a lot like a High on Fire record, but it had its own kind of unique twist on it that set it aside from his other projects.
Right.
It's kind of like poppier, I think, which and like more accessible, which usually I'm not crazy about, but with that format, I thought it was pretty cool actually.
Yeah, and the artwork I like that a lot too.
Now you mentioned RPG earlier. That song was gonna be in a video game soundtrack for an RPG. Is that what you were getting at?
So it was actually for a tabletop RPG.
Oh, rad.
So like, there's this guy. I think his name is Gabriel Quiroga, if I'm saying that right.
Mhm.
But he's like from Argentina, and he puts out like all these cool independent, like stylized tabletop RPGs, which are like they've got cool themes to them.
Right.
And he was putting together a soundtrack for one of them, called Hell Night, which is like this 80s like horror punk themed sort of thing.
Okay.
And we got that mixed up with a different one he had put out called Warpland, which is like retro heavy metal, like kind of stoner 70s, like Conan type stuff. And so we wrote this single hoping to get it like associated with the RPG and sent it to him. And he's like, "Oh, this is really cool. Would have been great for Warpland, but it doesn't fit Hell Night." And I was like, oh shit, we screwed that up.
Yeah, you wrote it for the previous one. No, and that sounds like it would definitely fit in like a Conan the Barbarian-ish type fucking game for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I wanted it to, feel like have like the heavy kind of brutal atmosphere of like a Conan type thing and all that sort of retro fantasy goodness. I think that's just one of my favorite aesthetics, and having a sludgy kind of post metal band that fits that aesthetic I thought would have been a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah,
so that's where we're going with the project.
Sounds cool.
The Barrowking, that is from Conan, isn't it?
It might be. I think Josh came up with the name of the band, so it could be a Conan thing. I need to read more Conan because I just have a pretty surface level of the that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no expert
I like
in
the
it,
aesthetic,
but I remember I have played the game a little bit, like Conan Exiles, and I remember there being a Barrowking or a Barrow something in the game.
Oh, dude, you're totally right. I just Googled it, and you're absolutely correct. It's definitely in the game and probably from the Conan lore.
Okay.
He looks pretty sick too. He looks jacked, and yeah, I could see this being associated. That's like the exact aesthetic we're going for, so that's cool.
Right on.
So you do plan to make a full length out of that project then, yeah?
Yeah, we've been writing off and on for the past year on that, and we've got probably like 40 minutes of stuff written, but it needs to be edited down. But yeah, we've been working on that one kind of on the side, and the plan is to start playing shows and record the full length album in the studio and all that. So it's coming along. I'm really excited about a lot of the content we're putting together for that.
So you don't really have like a time frame per se?
I would hope to release something end of 2023, early 2024, but I don't want to like confirm any dates
I got you. I was just wondering, because it would be hard to get everybody together.
Absolutely.
When you guys do want to start playing live shows, definitely get a hold of me and I'll see what I can do about getting you in the alleyway here.
Yeah, dude, that would be fun. I think like a Summer Alpina show would be a blast.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all through like June, July, and even a little bit of August. There's shows pretty much every weekend in the alley, whether it's just one band or 4 or 5.
Yeah, they all try different fucking genres and styles.
Yeah, like they had a real poppy band, Lipstick Jody, in the alley last year, and they were pretty cool. It was like I think it was 2 girls and 1 dude. But the one girl that was singing, like, she filled in for the other band that was playing because one of them weren't able to make it up. So she played like 2 sets back to back. And that was cool.
That's always impressive.
Yeah, their shit sounded like super poppy professional. Like you'd hear that shit on like the radio. But it was good.
I liked it. It was fun. But so aside from Barrowking, like you've done Bone Weaver, which was quite a while ago. What was your very first project?
So Bone Weaver was my first project that I released anything for. That one kind of came out of, I started writing a lot of that just when I was young, probably in mid to late, like high school, 16, 17. And I wrote that, over the course of like 6-7 years. And a lot of that was just me figuring out like a lot of the audio engineering and just recording workflows. I was lucky to have a friend who, from a young age was really good at all that stuff and would kind of teach me a lot of it, or I would ask him questions and he'd be like, oh, look up this, go use that, use this software, or, use this effect on this instrument type thing. And so over the course of those 6 years, I had like wrote everything, recorded it once, and then, got demos out there. And then once I had the demos, we went into, that friend of mine ended up opening a studio in Detroit called Radon Studio that I put all my releases through there generally. And so we re-recorded the entire album then in the studio and put that out. And so that was really like for me a crash course in figuring out how to like make music in a professional way and get things sounding good and, like as good as anything else you'd find on Spotify or whatever. So took a super long time, and just so much of that time was like screwing up lots of demo recordings and figuring out how to write stuff, how to sing, how to do vocals, how to play the drums, stuff like that.
What program did you use to record?
I use Reaper. It's
yep, I know what Reaper is.
Just the one I started with it because it's free.
Yep.
Or you can access it and use it for free, although you should buy a license. They like remind you every time you open it if you haven't bought it to buy a license. But
it's like Adobe.
Yeah, Reaper's fantastic. Yeah, exactly. Or like WinRAR, same idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Reaper a lot because it's got just a lot of built-in functionality that's really great to use, and it's easy to load up whatever other VSTs, like virtual instrument or plugin software you find on the internet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you, go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I was just
keep
wondering.
cutting you off.
You're cool. I was just because that's one of my questions was, would you use for recording? But then you also mix and master. So what do you do there? Same program, or do you use different programs?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the studio, the way I work with the mixing and mastering, it's come about kind of recently, but one of my projects, Elyvilon, became pretty popular, at least in the dungeon synth scene. It's been doing quite well, and I had that first one. I did my initial mix, and then I sent it over to Radon Studio for the final mix, and we were in there and we did like a full mix in Reaper and then an analog master. And that one ended up being really popular, and I've had people just reaching out, seeing if they could get similar mix.
You got it on it on tape? You said analog master?
Yeah, we have tapes of it.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, we've got those all sold out, but I'm hoping at some point to do a repress of those. I'll have to talk to the label that does them. But just with the success of that one, I've had other people coming to me saying like, hey, can I get you to mix and master my album? So
congratulations.
I do the first
shit.
Oh, yeah, thanks, man. It's been really cool. I've done 3 albums this year for that, and I think each one turns out better than the last. So it's really cool to see, and just having people reaching out and coming to me, it's like, if I start actually advertising this stuff, I might be able to get a good amount of business just there and see if I can do that full time.
Yeah,
which is
that'd be
kind of what I'm trying to do
fucking
now.
Dream come true, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but to answer your first question, I'll mix everything myself in Reaper just at home, and then we bring it into the studio, and like the studio engineer puts the final mix and touches on it, and then we master it.
That's cool.
It's all through Reaper.
So basically you do it, have somebody else make sure you didn't screw anything up, and then you both master it together.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's perfect.
It works really well. And the way we do it is, I try to just get a very traditional, like, okay, everything in the mix is audible, sounds good, hits like as hard as you want, that type thing. And then I bring it to the studio, and we kind of say like, okay, now we've got all the cool studio tools at our disposal. Like, what if we threw some really heavy distortion on this part, or like threw a crazy delay into distortion, essentially doing all the stylistic mixing and trying to make it sound interesting just past like the surface level. So it works out really well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When you're doing your playback, do you mix through headphones, or are you using speakers, or do you kind of do both to see how it sounds on each, or what?
So short answer is all of the above. At home, I generally mix with headphones on. And then I've got like a crappy big set of old like Salvation Army speakers. Actually, what are they? I'm curious. Oh, they're JVCs. So they're big
I
and
was
not
gonna say
very
Fisher, but
good
that's
or
close.
anything. Yeah. So I mostly use my headphones. Currently, I'm using just the Audio Technica M50X ones. I was using I bought a pair of Orange Amp headphones that I actually loved and swore by, but I accidentally just the hinge broke and then they stopped working. So, and they don't sell them anymore, or at least
Brutal.
I don't think.
Oh, that sucks.
So, yeah,
So you got to
if they
find
come
them
back in stock
used.
ever, that's probably the move. I should try and buy them stock or
Yeah.
used. I mean,
I'd
but
just check
yeah,
Reverb
I'll
or
check.
eBay or something.
Yeah, I'll probably do that. But
But
I
I know
like the
people that
M50s as well.
I know people that when they do their mixing, mastering, or they're just listening to their stuff, that either they play it on a certain stereo, or they go drive around to it, or everybody has their own different method of figuring out what sounds good.
Yeah, so I guess to keep going with it, like at home, I'm using generally the headphones. But once I like render a file, I'll always check it on a variety of devices. Like a crappy small Bluetooth speaker. I'll listen to it in the car. And then in the studio, we listen like with the studio monitors, which are set up at the right angle and all that stuff. And I always have plug-in headphones at my disposal too if I want to listen to something a bit more closely. And yeah, we always check the mixes in the car.
Yeah.
And I'll always listen to stuff at the gym too, just like get those Bluetooth headphones in and check that. Cause if you're not using, a lot of people are going to listen on earbuds. And if you don't check with earbuds, it's just always a good thing to do.
Yeah, I usually, like when I'm checking out something for the first time, typically if it's a newer thing, if it's an old record that I find in the store or whatever, then I'm playing it however. But if it's like something that somebody's sending me that's new or whatever, I'm typically using headphones. So, I mean, it's cool that you test it out on different platforms because everybody kind of plays their stuff on different things.
Yeah, you want to make sure, like, I don't know, everyone always thinks like as a, someone working in sound quality or audio engineering, anything like that, people kind of think, oh, well, you got to use the best possible headphones. But
that's not what people are going to be playing back on typically.
Most people don't have a fucking $2,000 set of headphones.
Right. So if all your, listener base are listening with the, included 99-cent manufacturing costs, Apple, just wired earbuds, then, you're probably not going to sound great on that if you didn't put any attention towards it. So that's the idea.
When I was younger, there was, we had like a lot of local bands and they'd go down and record. And I remember when they had their second album, they came back with the final mix, and we all listened to it in different cars. And that's how we judged it, because how they mixed it in the stereo and whatever. And that's how it sounded the best at the time, and I'm talking like 20 years ago. But that's how we kind of judged it, I guess, and that's how they played it for everybody. They're like, you got to hear it in the car because it would sound the best, So I didn't know if you've run into that, or I don't know.
Oh, we always talk about to quote, like nailing the car mix, essentially getting it to sound good in the car. Yeah, we always check in the car. So especially with metal, if you're driving around listening to metal, like you want it to hit right in the car. It's got to have enough body to it. So
yeah, some things can be real distracting driving.
Yeah, where the drums are like bouncing all around the fucking car and shit.
I have a hard time listening to lo-fi black metal when I'm driving. There's too much shit going on.
Oh, with all like that.
Yeah, all you can hear is like
I can listen to melodic black metal,
noise,
but not lo-fi. Like my kid was playing Dark Throne in the car the other day, and I'm like, dude, you got to change this. I'm trying to like fucking concentrate.
Oh, that's fucking dope.
So a lot of your projects consist of just you. Do you prefer to create by yourself, or find it easier, or just like taking on the challenge? Or you, at the time, like of Bone Weaver, you couldn't find people that were into the same stuff, or how did that come about?
So I guess a lot of it was just kind of rooted in the fact that I didn't know many other people who, like, one, were into the same kind of music as me, and then two, were also musicians, right? Like I had a few friends growing up who, were into Opeth and like Leprous and whatever stuff I was really into, but of those friends who could talk that language, Like nobody was really playing the same stuff. You know, I was in like a high school band for a while, like, you know, playing post-hardcore. I didn't even like the music really at all. I just thought it was fun to get up on stage and play bass and like hang out. But, you know, they didn't know any of the bands I liked, or if they did know them, they weren't like a fan, and kind of the same vice versa.
It's like that
So
small town
for
thing.
me, it
You
was
work
just
with who you can.
yeah, exactly. Like I had the guys I would talk to about the audio production and getting things recorded, but as far as getting people together to like be in a band, it was few and far between. So for me, it just came out of like, oh, well, you know, I play guitar every day, and more than playing other people's songs, I like coming up with stuff. And so, you know, one thing leads to another. And over the course of like 5 years, you got a bunch of songs that you've written structures for, and you might as well finish them and record them. And then, so I released Bone Weaver, and, you know, I was always interested in getting like a band together to play some of those songs live. But I just found that, like, you know, later on, once that album had come out, you know, I knew more people who were kind of into the same stuff, but then I was running into the problem of, you know, it's pretty technical stuff on every instrument, and I have a lot of trouble singing and playing guitar at the same time.
Right.
So
Yeah, some of the bass lines that are on there's a lot of jumping around
Yeah,
and
this
stuff.
shit's
So
technical.
yeah, and like I didn't think it'd be too difficult, just because, you know, I don't play like crazy solos or anything, and if I do play a solo, it's like very melodic and kind of slow because that's what I like. But
Okay.
I don't know, I was trying to get people to learn the guitar parts, and I would need two guitar players, and like people were struggling. And nobody was really like playing it to the standard I would want, like if we were going to play live. So, and then COVID hit, right? So it was like, what? Yeah. So that album came out March 1st, 2020, which was like right before everything started to shut down. And so after that, you know, I was like, well, what the heck can I do while I'm in lockdown? And the answer I came up with was, well, let's start like a solo synth thing, because I wanted better synth work for my next metal album. And I figured the best way to figure out how synths work was to make a synth album. And that, of course, you know, synth album is for sure going to be a solo project.
It's just
unless
easier.
you're doing some like, yeah. And like, you know, if you're recording everything in your basement and you never like have the intention of playing live, like the only reason you'd want someone else on there if it's like a feature. But if it's your first album, you're probably going to have trouble featuring anyone anyways. So
you did have a guy by the name of Sam Meridian. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right.
oh yeah, Sam Meridian.
Meridian, okay. What did he do on the project?
Oh, he did the solo on Depths. There's like a super crazy technical solo that he did.
Okay.
Which I can't play that shit. So, yeah, I've known him since like early grade school. We went to the same elementary school, and he kind of got me into heavy metal at an early age. I remember in like third grade, we were hanging out, listening to like Iron Maiden, you know, Rime of the Ancient Mariner and all that stuff. So yeah, I had known him for a long time, and he's just a phenomenal guitar player. He has a YouTube channel where he does some crazy stuff. Like he did a full cover of I by Meshuggah. And he like starts it with a clip of one of the guys in the band saying like, oh, yeah, we don't play that live. That's meaningless noise. Like nobody can play that. And then he plays the whole thing in one take. So he's a stellar guitar player. And I knew like, you know, I figured I'd try and get him on a track, and yeah, he did it. I was super thankful he did.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the Opeth influence in your solos and the difference from the solo on that song. Because I've listened to that song a bunch of times, but I wasn't sure if he did vocal or, you know, played drums or what, you know, whatever he did. Like I don't think it said on the track or whatnot.
Yeah, he's the guitarist. He's doing all those like dive bombs and crazy sweeps, and thankfully he did it. He actually ended up joining Fallujah, the like tech death band. So yeah, he's a big deal now. He like goes and tours Europe and stuff, and I don't know. I think he's on a cruise or something playing heavy metal. So
holy, he's on a heavy metal cruise playing it, dude. What a life, hey? Yeah,
it's wild. I mean, he deserves it. He's the best. Like he's got the best guitar chops of anyone I know.
That's awesome.
Is the cruise? That's not 10,000 tons of metal, is it? Because I know there's a cruise
that's the one.
There's a
Yeah,
cruise.
that's the one.
Shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He's playing with Fallujah on that cruise.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never like been on it or anything like that, but I've seen videos and I always see the lineups of the bands and stuff when they come out. I always thought it was a cool idea for a cruise because, I mean, a cruise to me, like I don't have any ambition to go on a cruise. Like none of that.
neither.
Being stuck on a boat with a bunch of people seems terrible to me. But you put a bunch of metal bands in there, like yeah, I'd go on the cruise.
Right, because you could just go hang out with like a band you like, which is wild. It strikes me as being a bit of a stinky cruise, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fine.
Metal
Yeah,
dudes and
I could see
hippies are
that.
very similar in the stench.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah, a lot-
harpos.
for sure would be a lot of a lot of dudes on that cruise, and they'd all be wearing way too much black in the hot sun and getting real sweaty.
Yeah, it'd be definitely a ripe tour.
Right, yes, that is the correct word.
Yeah. So, about your dungeon synth stuff, what got you into making dungeon synth music? Because I've heard dungeon synth, but it never clicked to me or occurred or was labeled as dungeon synth music. Like, you are the first person that I know personally who actually creates the music. Like, what got you into making that music?
So I grew up, I was pretty young in like the early 2000s. I was born in 1996. And so growing up, I loved all the one of the first books I read was The Hobbit, and I loved that. And then got big into like The Lord of the Rings, and those movies were coming out right when I was pretty young, but I was like the perfect age where it like became my entire personality. And at the same time, I was playing like a lot of like late 90s classic like fantasy video games.
Gotcha. Final Fantasy
and so-
7, shit like that.
Not so much the Japanese stuff, more like the European or stuff, or like American stuff, like Diablo and like Age of Wonders.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Quake.
So that kind of stuff, and they're all using like, essentially they're making fantasy soundtracks for these things where they're all electronic interpretations of real instruments played for like fantasy vibes, right? So even though those things weren't necessarily called dungeon synth, that was like all my favorite music growing up was like that. And, like old heavy metal. And like, I loved all the heavy parts of like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack where it's really evil and punchy, big drums and trombones and stuff. So all that like kind of fantasy music. But specifically those old, like video game soundtracks.
Yeah.
A lot of it was very, what you would call like proto dungeon synth. And so I loved all that growing up, but I didn't really know what it was. And then getting into high school, I started discovering that like black metal artists would make stuff like that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Kind of into that. But I didn't go like crazy about it. And then my first job out of school, I was in tech and just spending a ton of time like where you have to be thinking and like you're working on stuff,
Right.
so you don't want something too distracting, but you want the right vibes. And so I found that like sometimes I listen to vaporwave, but really I was like, man, these like fantasy synth albums are just hitting like it's the correct vibe. I want something escapist to
Definitely.
take me away from this job that I hate.
Yeah, the
Yeah, so it was perfect.
your albums are very like take you to another place, you know what I mean? Close your eyes, snap, you're there, and
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I just I'm more on the like Doom, like the Doom. There's a Doom soundtrack. It's like half and half, you know what I mean? It's not dungeon synth, but it's like heavy, and there's synth, but there's also like guitars, and I don't know if you've heard it, guitars and drums, but that shit's heavy as fuck.
Yeah, that's an incredible soundtrack. I was just talking about this soundtrack actually with a friend of mine recently. He's a fantastic musician. But yeah, he's like mixing. It's almost like modern progressive metal with like heavy synths, like just like old bass synths through fuzz pedals, and yeah, that hits like a truck. I mean that's a heavy album, but there's still the cool like like hellish doom atmosphere, which is really
Right.
cool.
That's just
So yeah,
I have a 15-year-old son, and that's his shit. He fucking is video game music and Doom, like that's his. Quake, he's in like Mega Man soundtracks, and he's in the same boat that you were, where there's nobody that's into that shit, where he's at. So it's, I'm just trying to get your take.
Can we pause for like 1 second really quick?
yeah, for sure.
Okay, back from that. Anyways, we left off on a Doom soundtrack and your kid.
Yeah. Oh, I was saying how, like, that's his bag is soundtracks. Like his favorite album is probably Jaws 2, like John Williams. But then at the same time, he's into like 8-bit shit, and then like Doom, and then your stuff I played, his ears perked up. It's like, what are you listening to? So it was just, I'm glad that you took it upon yourself to be like, I don't need anybody else. I'm just gonna make it because I want it out there. It's cool to hear somebody that's just like, fucking, I'm doing it like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of it for me is just like, I don't know, I have this like constant urge to be writing stuff and just being creative in general. And I find like if I'm not, I don't know, it's weird. I can't sleep, and like I'll get up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, sorry, what was that?
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like sometimes yeah, I gotta be. And there have been a few times where I like get up in the middle of the night and like, all right, I'm just gonna write like a couple chords down because I got this cool idea, and then I'll end up staying up all night writing music, and like I can sleep great after that, but I couldn't sleep beforehand type thing. And I don't know. So just got to be creative. And, it's cool to do it with other people, and like I'll jam with other people, but other than this new Barrowking thing, and like I've got a new project that I'm starting on working with a couple of other people, and like a sort of shoegaze black metal kind of direction, like Alcest. Before that though, it was mostly just me writing by myself.
Yeah.
And,
you pretty much have a new project every time you come into the store.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of how it goes. I don't know. Maybe I just
cool.
like niche genres, and
we appreciate your work ethic. So
yeah, thanks, man. I don't know. It just feels good to get a thing out, and sometimes I'll have a crazy idea for a new album that I feel like hasn't really been done before. And well, if it's like a crazy, like, say I want to mix like dark ambient with jazz, like swing jazz and gypsy jazz, like, man, you can't do that under Boneweaver. You can't do that under Elyvilon. Like, crap, I need a new project,
Yeah, just name it something else.
Exactly. So
when you're
luckily
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, luckily with where like digital distribution is at these days, you can kind of make as many artists as you want, and then you kind of have to start over with fans. But as far as getting it out there, it's not too hard.
You can pretty much put out whatever you want whenever you want. Me and Jeremy were just talking about that the other day. Mm-hmm. Like with podcasting, there's literally no barricades in our place that from preventing us from putting out as much as we want to, as often as we want to, or whatever the content may be. But I was gonna ask, when you are making a Dungeon Synth project, like how do you? Because I noticed that the first album of Elyvilon sounds a little bit lighter, and then Drums in the Deepwood did. Or was it Drums in the Darkwood? I'm sorry.
Deepwood. No, you were correct.
I had it right.
Yeah.
I noticed that there's a difference between the two. Like the Drums in the Deepwood sounds a little more gritty, dirty, swampy kind of, if you will. And the first album, how do you pronounce that? Is it Nimue?
Yeah, Nimue. That's perfect.
Okay, cool. I was going to say I need you to be our translator, but I got it.
I'm fucking
Yeah.
horrible at that. I'm not even gonna try, dude.
Yeah, but the first one, it has like a little bit of a lighter touch to it. I've noticed comparing the two. So when you're doing that, like, how do you go about getting the right sound for it, or the right? Because there's so many different sounds that are mixed into it.
Yeah, so the way I approach albums is like I want each album to have a cohesive vibe, and you're picking up on that great, which means to an extent I'm doing my job correctly. Where the theming, the thematic content, all of that comes first, and then I build the album track by track, like intentionally to go for that vibe, right? So the first album that I started with, Nimwe's Gift, like we're going back to the beginning of the pandemic after, couldn't really do any live stuff. So I was like, well, I want to, level up my synthesizer skills. Why don't we go ahead and start making a dungeon synth project? And at the time I was reading, like Robin Hood, which if you haven't read it, I think early 1800s version of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle, absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite books. It sounds like, goofy kid stuff, but man, I went back and was reading that at the beginning of the pandemic, and I don't know, man, just super inspiring and uplifting and brave and courageous stuff. So
Yeah,
I
some
don't
of that
know, that
goofy
just
kid
got me
stuff
excited.
got adapted from some pretty dark stuff.
Fucking
so
A.
I could see how it could be interesting for sure.
Yeah, Robin Hood's not necessarily dark. I would say there's some dark stuff that goes on, but I don't know, just really timeless characters, and I loved it. So I was reading that, and I was reading into King Arthur lore and stuff like that. So
Merlin was the shit.
yeah, exactly. Knights on quests and all that. So
Yeah.
I really wanted to start incorporating those kind of uplifting but also epic fantasy themes into an album where it's not happy-go-lucky and but it sounds brave and inspiring, right? So that's the first album. It's very knightly and classic fantasy vibes, like the old 80s Excalibur movie, or old Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah, it's kind of like the journey to going to conquer something is what I got out of it. It made you feel tough, like a knight, strong, you're riding on horseback going to storm some castle gates type of thing.
That's exactly what I was going for. You picked it up perfectly, right? So that was the theming of the first one. And then the second one, was more I just had a different vibe in mind. By that time I had quit the job I currently had, and I was up in, I spent, I don't know, a month up in Presqu'Île, just living out in that cabin in the woods, near you guys. And I think that's when I first started coming around your shop.
Yeah.
Or at least I had been going to your shop maybe, but I hadn't gone in and talked to you guys yet. So I was up there. The
first time
and
you came in was with the Bone Weaver stuff. And then
Yeah,
you had
exactly.
mentioned the Dungeon Synth project, but you didn't have anything completed yet.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense because the first Elyvilon album came out while I was up there.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't have any CDs or anything for a while after that. So yeah, at that point, it was all written, but we had just gone through the studio and we were finishing things up. So I didn't have anything to show for it. But at that time I was doing a lot of hiking in, the various areas around Alpena and Presqu'Île. And I don't know, the woods up there are just deep and dark. And,
Yeah.
there's I don't know, there's that cool feeling of just being alone in the woods for a long time. It made me want to write something like that. And I don't know about what you guys think, but to my ears, when I listen back, it's basically a folk metal record, but just with synth and traditional folk instruments instead of guitars.
I don't know if you're familiar with Fintroll at all, but
Oh, dude, I love Fintroll. They're one of my favorites.
So it gave me sort of that kind of feel. Some of the interludes that they have in their songs have that sort of sound to it.
Yeah, so I had been on a different podcast, interviewed about that album specifically, and Fintroll is one of the 5 influences on that album that I cited. I don't know, it was 3 equal parts, and one of the big sets of influences was definitely a bunch of different folk metal, and Ivar Bjornsson and Einar Selvik, all those Norwegian and Finnish and Swedish dark folk kind of bands.
Yeah. So, aside, who were the total 5 influences on that album? I'm curious
Oh
now.
yeah, I could pull up the list. So there were a bunch of dungeon synth influences. Because when I started writing that, I kind of realized like I could make this whole album with just like folk instrument software, so it sounds like a folk record. But man, that's already been done.
Yeah.
So I wanted to like also have like a retro like horror synth kind of vibe going on, like very dungeon synthy vibe. So there were some definitely some dungeon synth influences. One album that comes to mind is called Halberdier. Uh, or Halberdier is the artist name. I think it's To Return Home Victorious is the name of the album. Just had some like classic synth tones that I really liked, and inspired me to work on some patches of my own. Other than that, it was the like there was a lot of just folk projects that I think inspired it. So like the Einar Selviks, or like there's a Polish artist who makes like Cossack style, like Tatar folk music, I think it's called. I can't pronounce her name, but I can try and find it. So that was a big influence, just like the sort of like folk music palettes that I tried to use for the non-synth parts. And then I wanted the swagger of like the folk metal. So as far as folk metal goes, like Finster Forest was an inspiration. Fintroll was a big one. See, I got to think. I like Ensiferum a lot, or Ensiferum, however you say that.
I always said Ensiferum, but yeah, it's probably Ensiferum.
Sorry, what was that?
I said I always said Ensiferum, but it's probably Ensiferum. Like once you look at it spelled out.
Yeah. So yeah, those guys, I like Teresas a lot.
Yep.
So a lot of like the Finnish, melodic death metal mixed with folk stuff.
Korpiklani,
yeah, I think those are the main
stuff
ones.
like that too.
Oh yeah. Korpiklani is hilarious, man.
Yeah, they're kind of more gimmicky, but they do have the sound to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not as big on them, but I definitely like them. So
yeah, I haven't listened to them in a long time, but they are like fun every now and then to throw on. But I did, as I was going through kind of taking notes of your stuff for this episode, I did go back and listen to Fintroll a little bit, because when I was listening to Drums in the Deepwood, I was like, I really like the heavy hitting drums that kind of go throughout the whole album. And it reminded me directly of that. So I went back and started listening to a little bit of that again, because it had been years since I had heard it. And it like clicked right there where I was like, oh, I want to go back and listen to this. So that was cool. So I figured, I didn't know if that was one of your influences, but I did mean to bring that up to you. And I think me and Jeremy were talking about it like a week ago or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one. That is one of the big influences there.
So you mentioned books, you mentioned different games and stuff like that were sort of inspiration for writing. Are there any movie soundtracks that kind of inspired you to write any of the Dungeon Synth projects, or any of your other stuff aside from Lord of the Rings, obviously?
Yeah. I would say that I'm less inspired by movie stuff in general. Lord of the Rings obviously is a huge one, and that one's definitely the most influential. I really like the Blade Runner soundtracks. And lately, as I'm digging deeper into like analog synths, I find myself going back to those. And like Hans Zimmer in general, I like his style and how he writes. And sometimes like, it'll sound really poppy, but there are some movie soundtracks that just like everyone knows that one song because it's perfect for the setting. And so I try to use that as an inspiration. One big example being Pirates of the Caribbean. Like the main theme is like the perfect adventure spirit type,
Right.
Yep.
Pirate adventure song. Like I can't imagine a better one. They knocked it out of the park. Is that John Williams? I feel like it's probably John Williams.
It's John Williams, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a very huge sounding song. Like I love the I would call it the theme music essentially for the whole movie, really. And I actually just listened to that randomly pretty often, to be honest with you, just because it's such a fun build-up. And that drew me to the movies more than the movies almost.
Yeah, I would have to agree. That music's incredible, and I think just applying like that songwriting style, like that it's great because it has so much energy and it draws you in. It's never boring, and it fits the themes and like the atmosphere of what they're going for to a T. And so for me, that's an inspiration in that that's what I'm trying to do with my albums, right? Like I want a very specific vibe that I'm curating for the listener, and I want all of the songs to like fit into that somehow. And I want you to listen to it and maybe not have it be exactly what you expected, but when you're done listening, be like, wow, like I was engaged the whole time. It put me in a different world, like Jeremy was saying, and it like totally fits with the album cover and all the lyrics and everything. Like I want it to all go together.
You want it to be heard as an album, not just as a 2-minute fucking single,
Exactly. Yeah. I'm an album guy. I like starting an album and listening to it top to bottom. I kind of get the vibe that that's you guys as well.
Yeah.
So
we can't express how much I appreciate that in people, because just being in the record store and like hearing people talk in general, like you don't often hear, I guess hear more often than the outside world, but typically like when people are talking music, they're talking songs. They don't really talk albums. And there's so many good concept albums out there and things that like the song previous to it complements the next, or it tells a story from the beginning to the end, or anything like that. Like I appreciate like people who can go and listen start to finish of something and get the whole piece of body of work instead of just, well, I like that single off it, right, and that's all that does it for me.
Yeah, I'm completely with you guys. And, I think maybe from genre to genre that becomes a little less necessary in some and more necessary in others, right? Like
totally
if I'm going to write 15 punk songs and put them on an album, maybe I'm not going to have like recurring motifs that I bring up like from one to another.
Yeah.
But still, like, I think there's something to be said about having a cohesive and tight sound, even in a record like that. And I'm sure that the people writing those albums want you to listen to all of them in one go.
Nobody puts
the way I write
just for one song.
Right.
Well, yeah, Metallica might, but
we don't have to talk about them unless you want some hot takes from me on that. But
have you,
as far as like,
heard their new song by chance? We haven't talked about that on here at all, and I wanted to just call it shit. But
to be honest, I liked Metallica in like middle school and early high school, but it just
afterwards.
Nobody
ever.
I haven't had much interest other than. Yeah, I think I had a quick like ride the lightning kick in college for a while where I was like, yeah, this old thrash is really cool.
That's
but I passed that
album.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like
it's
your
sweet.
intro to, and then you graduate from that class and move on. And then, you can visit it later on and be like, oh, cool, Master of Puppets is sweet, blah, blah, blah.
I just think of Metallica as more of a corporation now than a fucking band. I think they get $5 million a show, something fucking ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're guaranteed to make, huge returns on anything they put out, so they might as well just print money if they can. But yeah, with that in mind, I did not listen to the new Metallica. I'll be honest. I didn't even know anything came out.
Time.
Yeah, it's like, don't even fucking bother.
Right. I haven't listened to any new Metallica stuff since maybe like, the Black album. Like, I don't think I've listened to anything after the Black album, and I don't really like the Black album so much. It's fine.
I try to check out everything up and coming just for the sake of the store, to be like, okay, are my customers going to enjoy this? Is it going to be something that's actually going to sell? Is it worth me putting the money up to possibly get stuck with them or not? And so when they were releasing singles, I had to check them out just for the sake of that. But I'm long past being a fan of anything new that they put out.
That about makes sense.
Speaking of that 10-inch that got released by Skeleton Witch, what is it?
Skeleton Witch?
Skeleton Witch?
Skeleton Witch?
Yeah. That
They're
shit.
cool.
That shit sounds like.
Oh, wait, you're talking about the one you picked up.
Yeah,
That's
the 10-inch
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow. Okay, with the entombed members,
Exhumed.
exhumed members.
Yeah.
That shit sounds like what Metallica should sound like to
Yeah.
me. Like, if that makes any sense.
See, I like the Sumerlands put out the Dream Killer
Yeah.
album. Like, to me, that was way better than anything that they've done in the
Oh,
past however
totally,
many years.
totally. That's such a fucking fabulous record. But anyway, I just wanted.
Yeah, I love that record.
I agree with the Metallica fall off.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
let's get off of Metallica anyway.
I'm done.
But do you have any personal favorite project that you've done that kind of you hold in a higher standard than the rest, or is it just kind of each time you're putting out a project, like that's your favorite for the time being, and you're kind of building one off the last?
That's a great question. I like the Bone Weaver record for what it is, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I learned a ton. It was kind of the blueprint for like how I would do all my albums going forward, just from like a technical standpoint. But with that being said, like it doesn't really do it for me anymore. Someday maybe I can go back and kind of redo the production on it, because for me, I don't know. I think like listening back, I think I'd like it to be a bit more raw and have like more of a sludge tone to it and sound a bit more organic. It's very like, I don't know, feels a little too perfect for me sometimes, as far as like the mix is kind of pristine in a way that I'm not crazy about. And I'd like to maybe retrack some of the vocals, because I think I got a lot better at singing since then.
I mean, it'll come with age because you were younger when you did it.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's that. So not that one, but I like it for what it is. And I have new Bone Weaver stuff written. I just have to start recording
Cool.
that I think will be like Bone Weaver, but slower and sludgier and, kind of fuzzier, dirtier production and different vocals, but still like recognizable as that. So I think it'll be fun. But to answer your question, I think those first two Elyvilon records are just really special, at least to me. I released them. It was the first thing that really started to pick up traction. I mean, currently it probably, for compared to a lot of artists, it's not much, but I sit at like 2,500 streams per month on Spotify. And, there's just a lot of random people I don't know from across the world who like listen to that. And that was the first thing I released that first Elyvilon album is the first thing that, really just started to get the ball rolling on its own, where I put it out and didn't expect anyone to listen to it. And all of a sudden, like there's all kinds of interests, and we had sold out tape releases and all kinds of stuff. So
awesome.
And that is cool because, Bone Weaver was awesome. Like, I love the project. It's great. I often, when people are in the store, like, who's this guy? I kind of describe it as sounding sort of similar to Killswitch Engage, and I only say that in the regard of, like, the clean to dirty style vocals that they do, and just the music in general is kind of that same realm of metal. But I don't think that there's really there's a similarity on the surface, but when you dig into it, there's really not. But just for descriptive purposes, it's easy to say that. But the Elyvilon projects that you did were more unique, I would say. So I could see how more people were kind of tapping in to listen, because they're like, well, I've kind of heard something that was like this already for like the Bone Weaver stuff, but for this, like, this is new, refreshing. I haven't heard this,
Yeah, and I think like, I don't know, that combined, I did research on Dungeon Synth to an extent, but I didn't like reference other people's stuff. I was just kind of like, this is what I want to make. And I tried to be as hard, like I tried to stick to the theme as closely as possible the entire time. And even if I wrote something I liked and sounded good to my ears, but it didn't fully fit the theme, like I would cut it, no question. And so looking back, those first two Elyvilon albums, like I think they did a really good job in constantly sticking to that theme. So I'd say those are like my favorites looking back. And you hit on like the exact point that I was trying to get at previously about the Bone Weaver record. I like all the writing, but looking back, there's like a disconnect in that the production to me sounds like a Slipknot or a Killswitch Engage record, right? But the content is very much not like a Slipknot or Killswitch Engage record. And so that's what bugs me about it, is that I want the mix to be very different from what it is, and that kind of like takes away from part of it in my mind.
Yeah, I can see that. It just has that era of metal feel to it with the music is all. Like I don't like trying to compare things, comparison is the thievery of joy. But when it comes to music, like to pitch something,
Yeah, the fucking 42-year-old mom of 3.
yeah, to like to somebody random, like you want it to kind of resonate with something that they may be into.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I get that. And to your credit, like it's mostly written in drop D. And a lot of those riffs are like pretty directly inspired from like all the thrashy stuff. Like I was listening to a lot of Lamb of God at the time, like Ashes of the Wake and As the Palaces Burn. And, I feel like there's a lot of that in there, which kind of lines up with that Killswitch Engage style. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of those riffs are, it's not like metalcore, but I don't know, like, yeah, groovy, like early 2000s, whatever. It's not quite death metal, but I don't know what else to call it.
Right. It's,
And,
you play drop D in that way, and it's kind of hard to get away from that sound anyway, because there was like so much of it at the time.
yeah, exactly. So
I have
kind
an
of
odd-
bridges the gap between death metal and metalcore.
Yeah.
I would say.
yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, go ahead with your question.
I have a totally off the wall question.
Is this the zinger question?
This could be a zinger
Okay.
question. So I know everybody has like guilty pleasure bands, or like for instance, I can't help it. I love Paula Abdul. It's a fucking seated kid thing that
Straight up.
yeah, exactly. And she's fuck cold hearted too. But what other music do you listen to, besides what people would expect?
Oh, okay. So as far as like guilty pleasures or anything like that, there's probably a number. I think pop is the first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about like a guilty pleasure.
I'm just saying,
yeah,
like you secretly love fucking Beyonce records, or whatever it may be,
yeah, for sure. Well, like, okay. I guess then if it would be unexpected, oh gosh, what's his name? The guy who wrote, he's like, I don't know if he's Norwegian. He had one hit single, and then Somebody I Used to Know by Got Ye.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That song is just so good. It's
you ever
so
seen
well
the YouTube
written.
video of them like 5 dudes playing on one guitar that song?
Yeah, that's an interesting out of nowhere single though.
That is.
And that song's like
I completely forgot about
yeah,
that
I'll give
song.
that song's cool.
Yeah, so that's one. Another one you guys you might expect because I'm into synths, but I really like probably like mid high school.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with the album Violator by Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
I don't like a ton else by them, but man, that album is incredible. Another one I think that might come out of left field for people is I really like a couple of country artists. My two favorites are like Johnny Cash and Townes Van Zandt. I think are absolutely fantastic. I don't listen to much else as far as country goes, but man, those two.
They're both great songwriters for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, like the songwriting is so like clear, and the lyrical content is just exactly what it needs to be. And like hearing Johnny Cash do a cover of like Depeche Mode, that's just it's really cool seeing him like really weigh all the words and take into account like all the different styles. So that's cool.
Like
I like all that
Jesus
stuff.
and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the one I had in mind.
Gotcha.
Let's see, anything else I'm really into that might be out of the way. I don't know.
See, none of that's out of the way to me. I was thinking, something fucking weird. Like
Oh, like,
Dion and
there's
the
a lot of
Belmonts
weird.
I mean, not weird,
Dion in the Belmonts.
but weird to like, I make Dungeon Synth and listen to fucking Mariah Carey's fantasy record every day, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. Man, I gotta think.
But if
I'm
you
like,
don't-
See, when I think like the term, if somebody asks me guilty pleasure, like
Yeah.
I think of things that are like your friends can't catch you listening to this shit type
Right.
of thing. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like at this point in my life, like
don't
I'm
give a
like I
shit.
don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like-
Me too. But
yeah, okay, so like I like some Disturbed songs, and I
that's
probably
that's bad. Yeah.
that's a guilty
that's
pleasure
good
for
one.
sure. Like,
Fuck yeah.
you know, I don't like that I like it, but a couple of their songs I'm like, yeah, dude, this guy sounds pretty good.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
play
I don't
that
like.
where I work every fucking day. Like they're stuck in this fucking 2005 fucking era, dude. It drives me crazy. So
I'll be honest, when
Oh.
Down with the Sickness came out, I owned it.
fuck, dude. Damn, I hate that shit.
But nothing past that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's rough and like it's cringy when I listen to it, but I don't hear it like ever. So when it comes on, I'm like, it's like when I was 12 and this
That's
came
a
on and I
fucking
thought it was
zinger,
sweet.
dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So
Yeah, that is
Disturbed,
one that
there
I
you
would
go.
that's one I wouldn't have expected.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Although they did do the cover of that fucking Genesis song, Land of Confusion. I seen that they were at a festival that I was at one time.
And the Sound of Silence, man. They're just making
Oh, that's
money
right.
off
Yeah,
of
Sound of
fucking
Silence.
covers.
Yeah.
Okay, the Sound of Silence cover actually makes me see red. I hate it so much.
Fuck yeah,
because
dude.
the whole point of that song is it's like understated and kind of creepy. And wow, they just did everything you're not supposed to do and like overwrote the shit out of that song. I hate that cover so much.
Yep. That
God,
and the Zombies cover.
They were kinda
or
like-
Cranberries, the Zombie song. I
Yeah.
fucking hate that cover.
They were
too.
like the Five Finger Death Punch before Five Finger Death
Yeah.
Punch.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's like pretty tasteless, and I, like objectively don't think it's good music. But every now and then I'll hear it, like a song come on, and I'm like, all right. I remember liking that as a kid, type thing. So
Yeah.
that's another
Down
one
with the
maybe you wouldn't
Sickness, though.
expect. Oh yeah, that song is rough.
Acoustic, or no. When in Dawn of the Dead, the lounge singer dude does it,
Yeah.
and that's the best version.
Oh, it's like when they're all in the mall and
Yeah, and
stuff.
they do the montage.
Yep.
Have you ever heard that version?
I have not. I might have to go check it out.
It's
Pretty cool. It's like a lounge swinging Down with the Sickness kind of.
And that artist does a bunch of songs, so look into that in your spare time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely will. That sounds great.
So a follow
I
up
guess-
to that question, is there anything or any artists that you just absolutely despise?
Oh, that
Music
I despise.
wise, it doesn't have to be personality wise. Like this person's a piece of shit, but like the music that they put out, is there
also
anything
shit.
that you're just like, I can't listen to this?
Well, there's stuff I can't
mean, there's-
listen to, but are you saying like I can't listen to it, or is it like this makes me angry that it's like popular and like I don't think it's good type thing?
Something that like everybody loves, but you just don't understand why.
Okay, so I have a couple answers for this. One of the big ones that always pisses a lot of people off that I sometimes say is like, well, there's two, but the Beatles is one of them where like they don't like piss me off that much, but man, if I have to hear like one more guy in his 60s like telling me how the Beatles are the greatest thing to ever grace God's
Yeah.
green earth and that we wouldn't have music if they didn't make music is like
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
with
get
you.
so sick of it. I put on a Beatles record and I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Like I can see how this would be very, very boundary pushing at the time, but like I get zero out of it. Like there are a couple songs I'm like, yeah, that's nice, but like there's only so much you can get out of like a nice sounding chord progression and sexual innuendos for 4 minutes,
Yeah, they're definitely dated at this point in time, and they're in the store, they're to me like how Metallica is. I mean, it's always people want Beatles, Metallica, Led Zeppelin, whatever, and all those artists are great for their own reasons and whatnot. It's just like I want people to move past that and find like, how are we supposed to let the music of today live on if nobody moves on from the music
Right.
that came out 60 years ago?
Right, exactly. It's very like feels stagnant when people are like, yeah, but like this Beatles album, like, yeah, okay, we've all heard it. Like let's keep going here. I'm not
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, it's over. You know, like they're not. I don't know. I'm with you guys on that shit. What hasn't been said about like that Zeppelin, all of that classic rock shit. You know, crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I like Zeppelin. They've got some cool songs. They come on and I'm like, yeah, like that sounds nice. That's fun. It's a cool song. They did a good job with it. But, once you've heard it 500 times, like it just,
over.
You can find something else. Come on.
Exactly. And like, what's the other one that you had aside from the Beatles?
Like I've tried to get into the Grateful Dead a couple times. People are always like,
yeah, I hate the Dead.
Dude, people get so like, I don't know. They'll tell me like I'll respect their taste in music. They'll have good takes, and then they're like, dude, you got to get into the Grateful Dead. It's the greatest trip ever. I'm like,
not even a little.
I don't know, man. I've tried a couple times, and it's like, I don't even see what about this you would enjoy. Like, what is it? Like, okay, the vibes are good, dude. Every like artist in that era had reasonably good vibes.
Yeah.
So
that's just
I don't know.
That's I didn't grow up like that, so I just don't fuck with the Grateful Dead. I got in fights with the Grateful Dead fans when I was a kid.
I think they were like it's at this point in time, they're like a pop culture thing.
Yeah,
like how many, if you walked up to the average person who claims to be a Grateful Dead fan and be that guy that's like, name 5 songs.
They got nothing. Trucking?
I got nothing either.
No,
like,
but
I don't like
shit.
the Grateful Dead at all. But
actually,
I don't know a single Grateful Dead song.
First thing, Steve, the owner of Noise and Toys, half owner or whatever, first thing I sold him was a Grateful Dead 45 I got from my mom. I was like, I don't even want to own this motherfucker. And it was like a promo, it was worth like $20. And this was like 12, 14 years ago, It's fucking hilarious. So I'm just like, I hate this. So we agree with you there for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not a fan of Grateful Dead at all.
But anybody out there that is,
just going to piss everyone off.
Go for it.
Oh, go for it. Everyone out there who is what?
No, I'm just saying everybody who out there that is a deadhead, if you will, that's fine with me. Do your thing, but it's not me.
Thing,
right, to
whatever.
each your own fucking thing.
Yeah, go ahead and piss the people off.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, all right, I'm going to do some more controversial opinions that I have where just kind of similar. I just don't get anything out of it.
Okay.
Big one for me that so many people like that I just have tried so many times to get into and I never enjoy is Slayer.
I love Slayer.
Something about it for me.
I
don't know, like
tattoo.
It just makes me laugh, man. I hear Angel of Death and he's talking about like, I don't know.
Oh,
like,
dude, that shit makes
the
me laugh too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know, I can't take it seriously. And there's a lot of cheesy metal that I like, but for some reason, Slayer, like, it doesn't hit with me. I feel like okay,
that's fair.
I see why people would love it, but I don't know. I have trouble with it. I think I like groovier, like slower stuff. And if they did the exact same thing, but with like half the tempo, or not half, but a much slower tempo and like a deeper voice when he was sort of doing his scream singing, it would be like the perfect type of thing for me. But I don't know, man. Sometimes it just doesn't do it for me. So
fair enough. There's actually, there's
it was
songs,
meant to be kind of gimmicky, though.
Right? And there's songs like that I would put in the same category as like AC/DC songs where I never want to fucking hear them again. There's a couple Slayer songs where I'm like, I don't really need to hear them again ever.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
But then on that same record or same album, there's fucking 9 other songs that I fucking love.
Yeah,
they're not a band I listen to very often. Even like I do, they're a great band. It's not on my regular rotation of things, but my regular rotation is like always changing. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, other than Slayer, another metal one that like I think I like 5 of his songs, but it just I don't know, the overproduction kind of pisses me off. Is Devin Townsend. I don't know if you guys are into him, but like I don't know, something about him lately, just that whole like hyper overproduced operatic like modern prog metal.
I call it math metal. It's all a bunch of crazy shit going on. But I could never get into Devin Townsend project. I tried.
The only Devin Townsend songs I like are where he has a feature from a different artist I like. So he's got like
Ah,
a Gojira feature. That song is incredible. You know, you hear what's his name? Joe Duplantier like just blast some crazy, evil death metal vocals over like good riffs, and it's like, yeah, this song is sweet. Or like he has Isan on
yeah. You're like, I
from
love the
Emperor.
fucking features, but
Yeah,
not the
exactly.
band.
The
Right,
features are
right.
sick, but man, I just don't care about anything else you're doing. And so that, like, in a similar vein, I cannot stand Dream Theater, man. Like, I don't know.
Vocally, they are hard to digest for sure.
Okay,
Like,
even past the vocals, like the way I get that, like technically speaking, it's very like correctly composed as far as music theory goes. Like,
they're
they're
all like
doing it
college
all by the
trained
book.
musicians and have studied music theory like in depth.
Right, but it just strikes me as like complex for the sake of being complex. Like they never
Yeah.
sat down and were like, "Oh, this melody is really cool and it wants to be in 5/4." No, it's like, "All right, how are we going to go from 5/4 to 9/4 to 7/8 to 16/4?"
Yeah.
Like, dude,
No, nothing's made with feeling. It's all like it's made on paper.
yeah, that's exactly it. And then you mix that with like cringe vocals and lyrics that are just kind of like in that weird sort of mid 2000 or like early 2000s, like we write about feelings generally and don't have any like particular thing we strongly want to say. Like, yeah, it
Yeah.
gets a pass from me.
They have a handful of songs that I like, but outside of that, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Like, I believe John Petrucci is the singer's name. I could
Nah,
be,
he's the guitar
or
player.
that's right. I'm thinking of I had Liquid Tension or Liquid Tension Trio or
Oh, dude.
Experiment or whatever the fuck in my head when I was thinking of that.
Yeah, let me look it up real quick. I know Jordan Rudess is in that. The thing is, all of those opinions I just said are totally flopped for like Liquid Intention Experiment. I think
Yeah.
that stuff is sweet. They mix it with like jazz and
Yep.
like all of the compositions feel way more organic and cool and they gel really well. John Petrucci even has like a solo metal shred album that I think is sick. I just don't like Dream Theater.
Yeah, understandable. They are vocally, they completely
I
do
never
not
got
do it
into
for
them.
me, but
I mean, I've listened
musically,
to
I
them,
can
but
appreciate it.
I never did
Yeah,
it
I
for
mean they're
me.
good. They're world-class musicians, right? I
Yeah,
just don't like their compositions.
understandable. Um, so currently, I mean, we're getting close to where I'm gonna start wrapping things up here. But currently, like, what are you listening to regularly right now?
Okay, so it's been a lot of more retro style metal and sludge metal is kind of the standard for me, and some more folk and black metal as we get into winter. But like a big album for the past year that I've listened to a ton is Big Business. The album name is one sec. I always forget album names. Battlefields Forever. It's their 2014 record. I don't know. There's something about that that just every song hits. I love the pace of it, and all the riffs feel heavy, but they're not like overdone. It's not overproduced. So, Big Business, a lot of High on Fire.
You said Battlefields
Specifically,
Forever by Big Business.
yeah, it's
Okay.
got like a lion on the
Yeah,
front.
I see it right now. I was adding it to my Apple Music just to check out because I'm not familiar with it. But anyway, keep
Okay,
going. High on
so
Fire.
yeah, High on Fire. I like Snakes for the Divine a lot. I think that album is just incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
that album's
but
great. I like Death is This Communion quite a bit.
oh yeah, that's
And
solid too.
the Electric Messiah was really cool just because all the songs were dedicated to Lemmy.
Right. Yeah, that I read what Matt Pike's statement on like that album as they were releasing it, and that was cool to see that it wasn't just like, a random face demon thing that looks kind of like Lemmy. Like, no, that
Yeah,
is our artistic interpretation of Lemmy. I thought that was cool.
yeah,
Um,
because to me, like, High on Fire is like if Motorhead came out in 2000 or the late 90s, like, that's what they would have sounded like.
yeah,
And
they've got
Sleep
just a
is like modern day Black Sabbath, kind of, is how I've
yeah,
always described those two bands to people.
yeah. I can totally see that. And I personally prefer the High on Fire, which is funny because between Black Sabbath and Motorhead, like I'm Black Sabbath all the way. But I don't know, something about High on Fire is just really raw, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Another album I've been listening to a lot is it's called Dwell in the Fog by Fire Breather. Came out in like February of last year. And I don't know, it's just a great doomy, like fuzzy record. I think they're a Swedish band, and yeah, they did it right. Super cool. I've got it on tape. I've
Yeah.
also just been listening to a lot of tapes lately. So it's a lot of Dungeon Synth tapes that I've got. A lot of people send me their Dungeon Synth tapes, or I'll like trade with people for artist copies of my tapes. So like there's an artist I really like called Fog Weaver. They put out like all these it's like all their content's based on a series of books I like called Tales of Earthsea that are super cool. So I've been listening to that a lot on tape. I've got one of their records. So yeah, I guess that's some of it. And then
I love
Eternal
Fire Breather.
Champion.
I think you
Oh, yeah.
showed me Fire Breather, actually, if I remember correctly. We were talking about it like last year when it came out.
Yeah, because I saw them live like right after, and I think I was telling you about that.
Yeah, with you see Monolord with him, yeah.
Yeah, which Monolord is another one of those ones where I'm like, why are they as popular as they are? I feel like, I don't know, everything that, I don't know, Fire Breather does everything that I want Monolord to do. But anyways, they have some cool riffs, and I don't hate Monolord by any means, but
Yeah, my kid described Fire Breather as Drunken Mastodon, and I thought that was pretty spot on, because they do really sound like a more sludgy Mastodon, or even like earlier Mastodon stuff.
yeah, I would agree. I like, it's like, I don't know, it is very similar to early Mastodon, but I like it more than I like a lot of early Mastodon. I mean, another one of the albums on the list is Leviathan by Mastodon. That is just an incredible record, like top to bottom. I love every single song. So,
I've seen
but
them
yeah, I
play
guess-
3 or 4 times on different album tours. I didn't catch the Leviathan tour, but I have seen a bunch of those songs live.
they're just so well written. They're so good at like writing a riff that you would never hear anyone else play. Like you hear it and you've never heard anything like it, but you're like, oh yeah, that's Mastodon, which is weird. I wish they would still release stuff that sounds like Leviathan. I don't hate their new stuff by any means. And I thought Emperor of Sand was actually pretty sweet, but it's no Leviathan.
Yeah, they definitely bounce around depending on who they have primarily singing. It seems like they kind of suit the album around whether it's Troy singing or Bran or whoever, So
yeah,
like Hushed and Grim was a little more mellow and kind of proggy in a way, and then like Emperor's Sand, it was a little more rocky than proggy, and it just like each period of time seems like they have a different feel to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as far as my taste goes, I like all their singers. Like, Bran's great. Behinds is great too, but I like Troy's vocals. Like that is the quintessential sludge voice to me.
Yeah.
And so, the albums I really like are the ones where he is like front and center, and that's Blood Mountain, Leviathan, and Crack the Sky, right? So those are the albums I really like by them.
Yeah, Crack the Sky is really cool. I have a fully autographed poster of that from the band. And then I have
nice.
I have Remission that came actually like directly from Billy from the band. Like I have it, the shipping label set on the back of the record. It's like directly out of his collection.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
I had one more question. The Stormkeep Tales of Other Time. Did you ever get to hear the bonus disc from the CD that had all the Dungeon Synth tracks on it?
No, like I've heard the Dungeon Synth like interludes on that, like an ode to dragons and all that.
They did a whole extra bonus disc. I think it was like 6 or 7 songs. That was all music that was like the interludes.
I need to hear that.
It's fucking rad.
I'll rip it to my computer and send it to you.
That's incredible.
I don't think you can like stream it anywhere that I've seen. I haven't seen like a deluxe version online anywhere or anything like that.
Yeah, I haven't either. I haven't been looking for it per se, but I've only just seen Tales of Other Time. I absolutely love that album. And I've been looking for more black metal that hits like that, but I don't know if I can find any.
I could probably show you some stuff.
I did find, have you listened to Worm Witch?
Worm Witch? No.
Yeah, they're like
I've
Canadian.
listened to Worm and I've listened to Witch.
Oh yeah, dude, Worm is sweet.
Yeah, Worm's tight.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I've listened to both parts of that, but not the actual thing itself.
Yeah, yeah.
So Wormwitch strikes me as like Stormkeep style energy and like hit, but it's folky instead of fantasy, I guess. But there's some fantasy content on there. They've got an album called Wolf Hex that I really like. I discovered a couple days ago, and it's what I want in black metal.
I'm gonna add it to my music list right now.
Sounds good.
They have another band, Wayfarer, that is more like American folk style music, like cowboys and shit like that.
I like Wayfarer.
Yeah.
I just don't like it as much as I like Stormkeep.
Yeah. And then they did have another project come out recently, Profound Lore. No, that's their album. That's
a record label, yeah.
Let me find the fucking album. I knew that the name was, as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, nope, that's not it. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. Lykotonon, Lykotonon. The album's name's Promethean Pathology.
Oh, okay. I've never seen this.
It like just came out the end of November last year, but it's, I believe, the guitar player, singer, and maybe one other guy from Stormkeep, Wayfarer, Blood Incantation, that group of Colorado bands. But it's cool. It's got synth added into black metal, so I think you'd probably find something in it that you like.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. I think that sounds worth my time at the very least.
Yeah, I'll message it to you once we get finished up here. Jeremy, do you have any other things that you would like to add, ask, comment?
Any more zingers?
No, I don't. Zingers, not so much, I guess.
Do you like zingers? The hostess thing?
Yeah, I was thinking of those too. The fucking hostess cakes.
Like they're like cakes you get from the grocery store.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have ever had those. They're like zebra cakes.
Yeah, but I think they give you a stomach ache.
Oh yeah, for sure. I haven't had one in like since I was a kid. The more we say zingers, I kept thinking about like zingers and ho-hos and cupcakes and shit.
No, man, I just keep on doing what you're doing. This shit's awesome. You know.
That's the plan.
Both of us really like the Barrowking single that's out. I actually, I woke up this morning and I read your message and I like sent it to Jeremy right away. And
oh, nice.
Because I was like, dude, we missed this one. Here's another project.
Yeah.
And I listened to it like 5 times this morning, and then a couple times when we got into the store here before we started, I was playing it too. So I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, I want to hear more of that too.
Yeah, that is definitely what I'm most excited about right now. Like, I think that single just hits everything I'm currently looking for in a metal song. You know, it's got like this sort of Russian circles, like really, I don't know, slow, grindy chugs where like the notes and the tones like slowly change, but it's got like really syncopated, like angry, powerful vocals. And I don't know, it's everything I want to be writing and making. And the stuff we've written since then, I think like blows that single out of the water.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm really excited about just getting all that like ready to go. That's definitely my like the main thing that I'm looking at right now that I just want to dig into. So glad you guys like it.
Yeah, once you get those recorded and made up and stuff, I mean, send me stuff as you're going along, and then like obviously when you get physicals, if you're up and in the area at the time, bring them in. Or we'll work out a deal where you can ship them to me or whatever, because I still got to get I have to resupply some things from you because I'm running low on a couple things.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of you guys will be in the loop all the way as far as, that project goes or whatever else you want to hear from me. So
right on.
Cool. I'll keep you in.
All right, man. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode and get out of here, but thank you for sitting here talking to us, bullshitting with us, telling us that you like Disturbed.
Yeah,
dude. Big mistake on my part from a professional standpoint, but
you're going to ruin all your musical credibility now.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's going to get after me for this, and it's over for me now, but hey, absolute pleasure. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's an honor. And I'm sure I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot,
Have
man. We appreciate it.
Peace out. Take care.
Peace.
Okay, so that was that. I'm just going to end this by ending this, but thank you for listening. We do have an interview with Billy and Joey from, or not Billy and Joey, Billy and Joe from Illmatic coming up on February 12th, I believe is the date. And then obviously we'll still have stuff coming out like we normally do. But I'm all good here unless you
Yeah.
have anything else to add, Jeremy.
I just hope everybody enjoys it, and I hope the interviews continue to come.
Oh, yeah. If you are an artist and you are interested in us sharing your music or getting on the show, please feel free to reach out to noiseavocation@gmail.com or contact us on any of the social media platforms, and we'll do whatever we can to get you on the show. Also, thank you to all the people in Belgium who we didn't even know really spoke all that good of English, who are listening. Like, they're like our number 5 in listening ranks. So
And
we
I'm
thought that
thinking
was really cool.
This interview, and I could see, you know how like Germany's kind of notorious for that synthy metal mix. Belgium.
Yeah.
Thinking maybe they'd be into this, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate
maybe
that.
some of them even know the artist to begin with. You never know.
I
But
wonder
yeah.
what they think of our accents. They gotta think we sound fucking weird.
I'm wondering if it somehow gets translated or if there's just
yeah.
people that are fluent in English there. I don't know. I've never been to Belgium and I don't know exactly what parts of Belgium are listening. It just shows us that Belgium is one of our top listeners. So,
Well, if there's a festival in Belgium, you want to fly us out, we can do a live podcast.
yeah.
Thank you.
But, all right. Everybody have a good day. Peace out. Thanks for listening.